And Ambassador Anil Kumar Thurgunayat, former senior diplomat, is with us to help us unpack what's expected at the White House later today. Ambassador Thurgunayat, what signals, does this White House meeting send out after the Trump-Putin meeting in Alaska? How would Russia view Zelenskyy coming there with EU leaders together at the White House?
Thank you, Mark. I think that the meeting between President Trump and President Putin in Alaska, although the US media has played it down, but I think it was a very significant meeting for 2 points of view. One was the Russia-US relations that are extremely important, and they are trying to work together for their own reasons. And on the other hand, the Russia-Ukraine war, which President Trump wants to settle. And therefore, this time, as he said, this will be listening to one another, and they've been meeting after a very long time. And so President Trump heard President Putin, who told him what are his red lines, which is definitely that Russia will not, that Ukraine will not allow Ukraine to join NATO, and with which I think that President Trump has agreed. And from the very beginning, he has been talking about this. Secondly, the fate of Crimea, that for obvious reasons, Russia is not willing to cede back because it considers its own part, which you remember that Khrushchev had, while it was Soviet Union, had given it to attached with Ukraine. So Russia has claimed for strategic reasons. Its nuclear fleet and everything is there. So that's why it's extremely important. It's not going to cede that. Now the question comes to about those 4 territories that Russia has occupied in the last 3.5 years. The fate of those is something that is going to decide now which way it is going to go. But the very fact that if the United States takes a hands-off position, for which you will see today what we are going to witness is that not only Zelenskyy going alone there, but he is also being accompanied by some European leaders. Therefore, whatever decisions will be taken, because now, as you have heard, Zelenskyy saying that we want ceasefire, whereas the President Putin and Trump apparently have agreed to have a permanent solution to the problem.
Okay.
So I think that there are fundamental differences. Yes. Of course, Europeans would like to carry on this war, in my view, but that's very unlikely to happen if Trump does not agree.
So, Ambassador Thurgunayat, could this meeting lead to a shift, in the EU and in the US actually, and then the EU military aid policy towards Ukraine? But, Ukraine is demanding security guarantees. How will it continue to get that?
Well, again, if you have followed what was discussed and some things has come out between Putin and Trump, I believe that Putin is not averse to the idea of Trump and the Europeans providing the necessary securities, while himself going to undertake, whether constitutionally or otherwise, that is one of the sticking points, that they will never invade Ukraine. And now, those you never know. What happens 2 years down the line, 3 years down the line, it could happen once again. So therefore, everybody is trying to, and it has happened in the past. So obviously, everybody is trying to find some kind of security guarantees. Now, that is something that they're going to discuss. Normally it could have happened is that there is some kind of a ceasefire. Of course, after the last talks, we have seen that 3 rounds of exchange of prisoners have taken place. Children have been exchanged who've been there. So they are continuing to do those in Turkey. But at the same time, I think that next step, which Trump is trying, is to get Putin and Zelenskyy to be on the same side. So today's meeting in that sense is pretty crucial.
And, what's at stake in this meeting for NATO?
Well, NATO is basically, unless and until, the Article 5 of NATO prescribes very clearly that if any of its member countries attacked, then only. So it takes a defensive posture in that. It does not act. So far, Ukraine is not a member of the NATO. So NATO per se is not participating in this, but individual European countries are supporting it. That's also a ruse, basically. They're all providing assistance to Ukraine, and that's why they feel that this kind of, snatching away the territories by force is not permissible under the law. They very conveniently forget what they have been doing in different countries we have seen. Iraq war, anywhere else. So they have used unilateralism to settle their scores. And
Okay.
this is unfortunately happens to be the DNA of the superpowers.
Ambassador Truganayat, is it too soon to discuss reconstruction of Ukraine and perhaps the removal of sanctions on Russia?
Well, I think that was one of the points that President Putin talked to, and when he even took some businessmen, I believe, with him in a delegation, and said that since President Trump has come to power, 20% bilateral trade has increased, frankly, between Russia and USA. So, and he's giving a lot of openings, including they're talking about ExxonMobil going back and all in the oil sector. So I think that US is also looking at its own thing. Plus, Russia also has a lot of these rare earths and minerals, which it is offering to United States. So they are all trying to cut their own deal to suit their own advantage.
So indeed, there are some proposals, and our report also suggested them. Ukraine to give up Donbass, Crimea, all these parts. Is this indeed workable for Ukraine?
Well, Crimea is non-negotiable, I think, from Russia's point of view for now. That is something, but the others, I don't know if they are going to come out with some kind of a Minsk III or some kind of a joint force, or to see what people want, or more autonomy for the region. I mean, if all that can work out. But for that, I believe that ceding the whole territory would probably not be possible for Zelenskyy to agree to.
We leave it there. Thank you very much, Ambassador Anil Kumar Truganayat, former senior diplomat. Thank you for throwing light on what's expected at the White House later today.